Hello, 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 and everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Anchor Watch. Bobby Jones here, your humble host. And we have quite the lineup today. We have an interview that we conducted earlier this week with Amy McGrath, who is running for United States Senate out of Kentucky. You may remember she ran against Mitch McConnell during the last senatorial election there. And Mitch McConnell is stepping down for obvious reasons, and she is competing for that spot. So you'll get to hear from her, someone who has literally been a dedicated patriot almost her entire life. But a lot of stuff has happened this week. I want to bring in the great executive producer, Mr. Sam Osterhout. Sam, how
Hey,
you
brother.
doing?
Good. How you doing?
Um, I have been better, but I've also been worse too. So I guess I should, I guess I should try to be more balanced in the way I look at things, because if you get stressed out about everything, you got nothing left.
Yeah,
Um,
you're right.
there are a few things that just keep jumping out at me, and it's funny because I left the Navy now. Let's see, 2 years now. 2 years I've been out, but yet my beloved service keeps coming back into the media headlines. What is going on right now with the United States Navy and other military forces taking out these drug boats now both in the Atlantic and the Pacific are causing major ripple effects, and I think it's underreported here in the United States. So just so you know, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, in that picture, trying to look as tough as humanly possible, and he's failing. Um, Announced that there were more strikes this time in the Pacific, going after drug boats and killing 14 people. In the last week and a half to 2 weeks, ever since Admiral Halsey decided to step down as commander of U.S. Southern Command, there have been leaks saying that there are many people who wear the uniform, who are very, very concerned about what they see because no one is presenting the evidence for them. The ripple effect of these things, as you can see in that headline right there, Venezuela has canceled their energy agreements with Trinidad because Trinidad has allowed U.S. ships to go into port there. So by taking these what many would consider unlawful actions, you're now splitting up the Caribbean. You're having to force them to pick sides that they never thought they'd have
Mm.
to take, but more importantly, sides that they were like, we have no skin in this fight. Why are we being brought into it? Well, Venezuela sees Trinidad aiding the United States. The United States are killing Venezuelan citizens without any process, due process, any evidence, no nothing. Okay. That is a significant thing. Imagine if another country killed New England fishermen. Let's say Iceland had a hair up their butt and decided to just take us out, or Canada. How do you think the United States would respond to that? I mean,
Bobby,
Sam,
it's a hostile act. You're murdering
right,
citizens. There's no
right.
declaration of war. It hasn't gone to Congress.
I'm glad you said that. Keep that in mind that they did not go to Congress. So I'm literally watching this, and we're getting the leaks, and then a story drops today, Sam, and I want to say it was the Washington Post that came out earlier this afternoon,
Yeah.
and said now Pete Hegseth is having military members sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. Now, let me explain this to you guys. There is absolutely 100% no reason for an active duty military person to sign an NDA because they have security clearances. It is assumed that they won't talk. But Mr. Paranoia himself is now having them sign NDAs. I think partly because of the psychological effect that he thinks it'll have on servicemen and women. But also, he doesn't want people like Admiral Halsey or someone who leaves the service to talk about what they think. Well, NDA is not going to stop that, number one. And number two, The fact that you're wasting JAGs, lawyers, military lawyers' time with this BS is unprecedented. There were no NDAs signed in World War II. There were no NDAs signed in Vietnam. There were no NDAs signed in the global war on terrorism. Why all of a sudden do we have NDAs at the Pentagon? Your thoughts, Sam?
I mean, could boy, I'm really glad you brought up World War II, because
Mm,
I I can't imagine the greatest generation thinking like,
mm,
wow, there's some military secrets here. I got to tell some people about this, or I'm gonna come home and talk shit on high command. Like,
mhm,
it's
mhm.
just it's and also I couldn't imagine high command caring, right?
Well, right. Well, so what's happening here is this. Hegseth knows that the military, especially the leadership, hates his guts as a
Mm.
whole, collectively. They do. They do. There's
And
no
you think
denying
he does
this.
know it? You
Oh,
think?
he's fully aware, which is why
Yeah,
he's making the paranoid decisions that he's making. Okay. One of the things that you do when you know you are a leader that is under fire, that is scrutinized, you try to control information flow,
sure.
try to control it. So, what has this man done? He has taken away the Pentagon press corps, just kicked them out,
Hmm.
and then doubled down and has military servicemen and women sign NDAs, which are completely unnecessary. These are the actions of a man who is paranoid. Make no mistake. If your boss, any of our bosses in the civilian world, sat there and kicked out their communications director for a Fortune 500 company and then made everybody in that company sign an NDA, how would y'all feel?
I mean,
Right?
unless it's Apple about to drop the iPhone, right? But
Right.
like
Right.
Hegseth is not that. He's no Steve Jobs, and no matter what you feel about that corporation, like this is it feels very weak to me, Bobby.
It's not just weak, it screams of desperation because you're worried about how you appear, not about what you do. We're talking about a man, and I've been saying this. I'm going to make him my chew toy until he leaves office. We're talking about a man who will go do pull-ups and push-ups and sit-ups as a
Oh,
Secretary of Defense, but then put in signal chat or text actual war plans.
yeah,
Make it make sense, people. Come on. He's not serious. He is an imposter. He knows it. He knows the people around him know it. That's why no one wanted to be his chief of staff and other high ranking officials once those people left. He is aware. So he's doing everything he can to hold everything together. It's that simple. It's that
yeah.
simple. And that so that leads to some other things that I want to bring up.
Well, let me
Go
ask
ahead.
you just one more question about this
Sure,
first,
sure.
because it's look, I've been in jobs where a boss will come around and ask me to sign an NDA, and
Mhm,
usually it's because there's some creative, uh,
mhm.
intellectual property or something
Mhm.
like that's being. But if it's for no reason, even when it is, I can see there's a reason for it. I'm
Right.
like, this. I don't. This feels weird. Like I don't love signing NDAs.
Right.
How is this? How do you think it's going to affect morale? Because it's top down. Everyone knows he's doing this,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
How,
It continues to erode morale. So let's just walk back in time since this man has taken over, right? He comes out, he right before he's put in as Secretary of Defense, comes out with a book saying that women shouldn't be in the military and basically questions any recognition of minorities. And by the way, stripping that history away to include Colin Powell, who
oh
is
my god.
interred in Arlington, but he has wiped away basically his recognition militarily, and he's recognized as Secretary of State. Look that up. That's a whole nother story. He goes out of his
Oh
way to do stuff like that. So, okay, your morale starts to go down. Then he comes up with all these other things that highlight and make things difficult for certain group members in the force, right? The no shave shit, for black men, all this other kind of stuff, letting them very much know we don't want you here, right? And then anytime you see him when they do photo ops and stuff like that, very rarely do you see anybody of color around him in a force that has a high number of people of color, right? And then he starts to sit there and berate the high levels of leadership in the military. Before the Quantico thing, he was sitting there saying, we need to be more lethal. I'm going to put this message out. It's
Yeah.
like, what the hell do you think those dudes did for their 30 years? You know, are you kidding me? So he tries to chastise these people who, be honest with you, are better than
Yeah.
him at the job, better than him. That's why they're generals and admirals, and he got basically booted at 20. Okay. But that's neither here nor there. When he called those generals and admirals to Quantico, he sent a message to humiliate them. You know what?
Yeah.
Someone asked me, well, he has a right as a commander to do that. I go, you're right. You're absolutely right. He has a right. But you know what? He could did that and not publicized it. He could have did that. But more importantly, if you were a good leader, you know what he would have done? Knowing that all those generals and admirals are in command of business, he would have went to them. He could have did a worldwide tour like many secretaries of defense before him to get that message and say it directly behind closed doors. But nope, he needed the showmanship because he suffers from imposter syndrome. So
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
we, I'm just putting everything together. Then he kicks out the press corps once basically the press said he looked like a jackass. Okay, the next
Right.
move, boot them out the Pentagon. Okay, that's not enough because now the Pentagon press corps, which ain't even in the building, is still getting reports and leaks from the military because they're like, the man is crazy, he's wrong, and this, that, and the other. So now what is he doing? He's having them sign NDAs. I don't know what the next step is, but it has been a steady string of morale plummeting, paranoid action on a guy that is in charge of the most powerful military in the world. That is ridiculous.
So I mean, it's mind boggling, and he looks like a cartoon character, and I wonder who's hoisting him. Like it. It's so clear that he's a
Mm-hmm.
dummy.
Mm-hmm.
Even Trump should be
Mm-hmm.
able to see he looks stupid. Like he looks like
And,
a
and there and reports, Sam, have been that Trump is been upset with him many times. The problem is Trump realizes if he fires him, it makes Trump look like another idiot because it makes Trump look like he doesn't
right.
know how to pick people. We know that though, right?
Yeah.
So now when they made the decision, like for example, when they made the decision to do the bombing mission in Iran, Hegseth had nothing to do with it. Neither did Tulsi Gabbard. Have you even seen Tulsi Gabbard in the last 6 months?
Oh my god.
You
Yeah.
know,
What's going on
really?
with
I mean,
her? Oh my god. We
she's
gotta
the
get her.
director of national intelligence. So these are the points that I'm raising, right? There is no faith in him. And now you're starting a clandestine war and you have not stepped foot in the Congress, which leads to this my bigger point, right?
Yep.
I saw someone on Twitter or X or whatever the heck Elon decided to call it this week, basically say all you lefties need to calm down. This is not a dictator, blah blah blah. You fashion, okay. So I said, let me just pause. Maybe people, when you hear this, think it's hyperbole, but unfortunately for this person, I am a huge history nerd. Huge history nerd. Started back when I was in high school, and I haven't let go since. Let me just lay this out. If I told you there was a country that was taking military action without either talking to the country that they're firing upon or asking for permission from the people inside their country that are supposed to grant it, their legislative body, what would you think? But then at the same time, marching military down the streets of cities that have able bodied policemen that are also marching other people who are dressed like military, who are not police nor military, snagging people, throwing them in unmarked vehicles, and they disappear without any due process. What if I told you that the palace, the castle that the leader is in, all of a sudden is going through a renovation, even though the people provide that castle and pay for that castle? and not one person got a say in it. And he told everybody nothing was going to be destroyed, just to see that one wing of it's been destroyed without congressional approval, without any money being exchanged from the people, even though the people are supposed to upkeep it. Keep it. What if I told you that funds that their legislative body said supposed to go to these things are not, and has been diverted to other things, to include trying to cover down on a military bill because you don't have a government that's functioning. Oh, and by the way, that government is not functioning because that leader told the person running the legislature, don't open the government because there may be files that make me look bad. So everybody, all 330 million people, need to suffer. And then on top of that, every major arrest that your primary law enforcement organization has made, with the exception of this thing with the NBA, has been your political enemies. If I laid that out for any other country in the world, what would you think about that country?
Cooked. It's just
Right.
fucking cooked. I mean, Bobby.
Listen, it's bad. It's bad. And see, what's happening is people are yelling because they see the little piecemeal things. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is. I'm not doing that. I'm using um, I'm using the approach that China uses. China looks at the world in decades and centuries. They do not look at it like right here. They never have. Right. That's
Yeah,
why the
right,
trade
right.
war is been fascinating to watch, because China's like, yeah, we can take it because we understand the bigger picture. And that's why Trump is getting played in that. But that's a whole nother story. When you look at this from January 20th to now, you have a story arc that has become more and more centralized power. Now, Congress has not given permission for any military strikes. Congress has not given permission for any military deployments to support these strikes. Congress has not even been asked or given permission for National Guard or anything like that, as far as the funding, this, that, and other. What do? They take funding from other things and move it over there so they don't have to ask. They are finding every way they can to go around the primary check, which is Congress. And when it doesn't work, Trump calls Mike Johnson and Thune and tell them this is going to happen. That's what
Yeah.
happens. That's what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with a full functional government, despite the shutdown. We're dealing with one person collecting and centralizing power. And I just went right down the list. Cash Patel is going after John Bolton and James
Oh my
Comey and
god.
freaking John Brennan. But hey, we've had how many damn mass shootings since January 20th? So, some of them could believe to have original white supremacy or racial motivations, and the FBI for the first time in damn 40 years is saying white supremacy is not a threat to the domestic home front. Really, really, that's interesting.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I mean, this is what's happening. They're reshaping perspective, and they're trying to literally microdose America into believing that the best way to be secure and to be free is to give up all your liberties and power to one person. It's a micro dosage that's happening. And because none of us, for the most part, understand historical trends or have looked around to see, we're going to be hurting. But I will tell you this, Sam, and I'll pause here. November 1st is when we'll have food stamps, SNAP payments stop all over the country. The great state of Alabama, my next door neighbor in Georgia,
Mhm.
they're going to be really hurting. They're already starting to talk about it, right? Because it's one of the five states that use that program the most. And you have a government shutdown where they are the number one employer of people in the state, the federal government, which is shut down. You're going to see people hit a crisis point, to the
Yeah.
point where both senators here earlier tried to convince Trump to make some type of allowance for Alabama. I mean, to hell
Oh,
with
wow.
everybody else. But oh yeah, you can Google that. They went and tried to convince Trump a few weeks ago, to do something to help Alabama with these things. Hell, when the big beautiful bill was being debated, they knew then that this is going to hurt. Right now, you have hospitals in Alabama and Kentucky and other states operating in the red. Kentucky, which Amy McGrath is going to talk to you about here when you see the interview, is really going to be hurting come
Yeah.
2026, right? Basic healthcare needs will not be able to be met. All of this is happening because the one person who is centralizing the power is being used by, you know, you know, Russ Vogt or whatever his name is, and Stephen Miller,
Oh,
all
yeah.
these guys that have been pushing these agendas for decades are like, this is our chance. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, look at this. I don't even know where to begin with this.
No.
How can you
No.
how can you even do this legally? Approve disaster declarations for red, but not blue. When the irony of it is, and the blue state governors know this, the blue states pay for the red states. The red states are the reason we have deficits. Anybody who knows anything about how the federal government works knows this. If California and New York said, hey, you know what? We ain't paying any federal. We ain't doing nothing for the federal government. No contributions to the economy.
Yep.
You're on your own. Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, basically the former Confederate states, if I'm going to be blunt with you, someone who's from one, they will struggle with the exception of Georgia. Georgia and Florida are the two that will not struggle. The others will.
Right. I mean, Georgia
So,
and Florida. Florida has, big ag,
yeah,
huge tourism,
yep,
lots of industry. Georgia has a lot of industry. I
yep.
mean, it's still like, I don't know. I think we're in a dangerous moment, and I think we ought to at least mention that the people of Jamaica right now are facing potentially
Currently,
like a a generational crisis
yep.
in these hours, and the United States, which usually and historically would be there with humanitarian aid, is there's no mechanism anymore for that
No,
to happen,
no.
and
There's no
and so
USAID.
no, and so when somebody is facing a catastrophe or a crisis in their life anywhere in the world, and they see American troops or products or ambassadors, usually it can be a feeling of relief.
No, not
They're
anymore.
not there anymore.
Not anymore.
That's
That's
diplomacy.
gone.
That's huge
Our,
diplomacy, and
our,
it's humanity.
our most effective soft power ability has been wiped out in less than a year. The biggest reason the United States is respected around the world has been wiped out in a year. A year, not even a
Yeah,
year, 9 months. And I'm glad you brought this up because Jamaica's going to be struggling. Yet Argentina is getting 40 billion, while Arkansas and Texas and American cattle ranchers are struggling. Okay. Just so happens that Argentina and Trump and his private entities have done business. The $850 million that Trump has made since entering office, I think we have that graphic too.
yeah, I'm looking.
It's just epic. And when people sit there and say it's not a big deal, well, he just pardoned a crypto criminal. Just pardoned him this week from China. So he pardoned someone from an adversary nation, at least that's what he says. But because he helped him gain $864 million since coming back into office, does it
Eh,
matter? Just like Qatar getting the air facility in Idaho, $400
yeah,
million plane, multi-billion dollars in business for the Trump organization. America
the
first, unless it's his wallet.
it's not America first at all. It's one
Saying,
American first, and that's him. And I think the thing to note about this 864 million in early 2025 is that that's compared to, I believe it was same quarter last year, was
yep,
something like 52 million, right?
yep.
So it's a massive increase
Here's what's
in revenue
evident to
since
me,
he took
Sam.
office. Since he took office.
Right, right. He had a definitive plan to maximize profits going back into the White House. It is obvious that they worked on that. But
Yeah.
we are still waiting for a national security strategy. The thing that would justify our military stature, how we use our economy to protect and grow American interests.
Yep.
That document that comes out every time a president comes into office. Nowhere to be seen. I mean, maybe I need to re-Google and check again. But if they released it, they sure as hell did it quietly because usually it's a big deal. There's a press conference and say, hey, this is what we're thinking. SecDef is
Yeah.
there, Sec State is there. All these people are there. Nothing.
I, I mean, look, I think those documents are also they're more than just strategy, right?
Hmm.
They're messaging. They say to people like me, big dumb writers who are cowards in all other fronts, you're safe. We got this.
Right.
right? We have a plan. We know what we're doing, and there's no signaling of that. And Jackie Kerr, hey Jackie, how you doing? In the chat says, I'm wondering with great trepidation, what will happen if our country is attacked in any way? It seems like we are uniquely vulnerable under the sad excuse of a leader, and I have no confidence in the ability of our current military to handle any major military threats.
I'm not as worried as she may be because there's muscle memory that we still have in the military. We know how to act now. What I think will happen is if something like that was happening, you will see Trump and Hegseth hide until
Yeah,
something dramatic happens where then they can come out and be like, yeah, we did that. They won't be in the forefront. They will not, because the one thing that I know about Donald John Trump is he has never taken accountability for the things that he needs to take accountability for. And so, as commander in chief, if we were to get attacked and we had to actually rally this and the other, he's relying on a military that's been trained over centuries to react. But the strategy of how to end it, that would be the hard part for him. So he
yeah,
will
right.
have to, he would actually hide. And when you look at who he's supposed to rely on to figure that out, Marco freaking Rubio
Oh,
and Pete
yeah,
Hegseth. Come on, man. Come on. Do those names, regardless of your political leanings, do those names inspire confidence for you? Because you have Republicans who don't think Rubio and Hegseth should be those guys. Straight up, they've
right.
vocalized it. They've seen it. Although they voted for him, they've seen
You talk about off ramps a lot, and I think that
it. Mhm.
this is one thing. And tell me if I'm on the right track here.
Mhm.
Our military knows how to fight a war, but in order
Mhm.
to win a war, you have to end the war, right? And in
Exactly.
order to end the war, both sides, at least, or the losing side needs that off ramp, and without
Mhm.
diplomats,
Mhm.
without some system of diplomacy,
Mhm.
where's the off ramp? A military can fight a war, but can they
Mhm.
negotiate peace
No,
without
that
civilian
no,
counterparts?
no, no. That is why you have a Department of State. I'll give you a perfect example. The war in Gaza between Hamas and Israel. One of the reasons it dragged on so long was because there were no stated diplomatic end states. There was no point to negotiate to
Right.
because no one had one. It was just vengeance and kill, kill, kill.
Yes.
Right? For the longest time. And then when the world was noticing this and saying that they were like, hey, y'all need to come up with some end states here, some goals, blah, blah, blah. And Netanyahu famously rejected those first ones. And Hamas famously rejected the first ones. And the killing continued. Right. See, this is where adults need to step forward. And again, let me be very clear. I do not root against having successful leadership at the top of America's organizations and its government despite despite maybe having different political views, I will always hope and pray that they make the right decisions. But I'm
Yes.
also very aware that when you lack the capability because you lack the perspective, you lack the experience, hell, you just lack the competence due to your own personal failings, who are we supposed to turn to? So let's just play this out for a second. Let's say Venezuela and let's say other Caribbean countries, Colombia, whatever, they're tired of being pushed around by America. Like, all right, we're going to declare war. So now we're in war in the Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, all over, right? Who do you trust negotiate that settlement to stop that war?
Elon, Peter Thiel,
I
like,
mean,
like who's
and I'm
doing?
glad you brought that up because Steve Witkoff and these people, notice how Trump has had to use special envoys to do negotiations. So Witkoff would go to Russia, Witkoff would go to freaking the Middle East.
Yep.
That's not that's not a constitutionally aligned job. That is some special BS that you make because you realize the people you appointed ain't good enough. That should have been Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
Should have been Rubio, but it wasn't. It was a dude who, by the way, has no diplomatic experience, but he was a successful businessman. Make it make sense, people.
The Trump and his whole I'm a businessman. He's a businessman in that he does is make money off of
Mhm,
any kind of corruption he can. But that's his only tool, right? Is
mhm,
corruption. And when you're
mhm,
when all you've got's a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, right?
Right.
That's it.
Right.
He's not
That
using. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say no. That's a very, very, very good way of putting it there, Sam. Because there are things that require nuance and touch in the international sphere. Nuance and touch is not just randomly shooting boats that you say have drugs on it and killing civilians of other countries. That's not nuance. Nuance would be, hey, let's talk to Venezuela, see what they're saying, and aid them in stopping the source instead of just dealing with the symptoms. Okay. Instead, you have now made it dangerous for fishermen to even go out and fish. They've said it. You're wrecking their economy. And if we had suffered the same thing, we would be pissed. So we know that it's wrong, which is why he hasn't gone to Congress. He has not gone to Congress for one military action he's taken. That is extremely dangerous, ladies and gentlemen, because heaven forbid if it's your son or daughter that gets sent and, unfortunately perishes in a horrific way. You didn't even know they were going, or there was no one that
Yeah.
gave permission, or no one even knew. I mean, heck, we saw in an accident over in Europe, we had two soldiers that were killed, and Trump never mentioned them. But he's
Yeah.
supposed to be America first. And then bring up the propaganda. When I sit there and I say, what does this look like to you? When we talk about what does fascism look like, this picture, meant to have that retro 1940s World War II buy savings bonds feel. Okay, that one picture, all right, fine, whatever. America first, Americans first. I mean, but look at this. Look at this. Now, this is part of their campaign. This is what they're putting out there, using that wannabe Norman Rockwell 1940s push. But by the way, Norman Rockwell left his original magazine because they did not allow him to paint pictures like that of black people. So he left.
Right.
I mean, I'm looking at this. Now, I'm
Like,
going to ask the chat, what am I supposed to think of this? As someone who spent over half his life in uniform, going to God-forsaken places for this country, what am I supposed to think when I see this?
I
I mean,
mean, nobody even has black hair in this.
I mean,
It's
this is
weird.
this
It's
is
the weirdest
literally.
fucking thing ever. It doesn't like, first of all, clearly it doesn't look like America at
Mhm,
all. But the
mhm,
only women in this even are either
mhm,
little girls or like
mhm,
trad wives.
mhm.
This is just, it's like weak, mediocre man porn, right?
I've never seen
White
anything
white
like
man,
it.
like weak, mediocre. It's like this is like what the poster that Hegseth has over his mirror.
I,
And he says, "You're a champ." Every day he gets dressed, he's like, "You're a champ."
I've never seen anything like it. Like when I saw, I saw a couple of pictures separate, but when you showed me this before the show, I was like,
Yeah, like what?
I mean, I can't see the comments in chat, but if that makes sense to y'all, please let me know. Someone explain it to me. I mean, I, I got
Yeah.
nothing.
I mean, I see, there's comments in the chat that like this triggers the abuse I've suffered at the hands of white men. I mean, it is so like when you see it, I'm gonna pull it up again, not to trigger anyone,
Yeah,
but,
but
but like it is so obviously racist.
yeah,
Like you look at this, they look like Hitler Youth.
that's what I was going. That's what I was thinking. I mean, and then
Build your
like post World
homeland's
War II
future.
Soviet, yeah, Soviet propaganda. I mean, the, and mind you, people like Stephen Miller love it,
Yeah,
love it. You know,
it's a
Germany had
fantasy.
pictures like that in the 30s, and the irony of this is Stephen Miller's actually Jewish. I'm just still trying to wrap my mind around that, right? But this is what they're rolling out, people, and telling you that's the America they want. And
Yeah,
so when the SNAP payments stop November 1st, when the people who are furloughed from federal government and you want to call and get help on these things, and there's no one there to answer the phone, there's no one there to process these things. Just keep in mind, this is the America that Donald Trump wants. And while this is happening, he's building a $300 million ballroom that has come out this week that he's going to name the Trump ballroom on the White House.
And look, this is a very important point. There's a couple of important points.
Hmm.
First of all, he's taken corporate donations to build that,
Yep.
right? And let me
Illegal.
ask you, anybody in the chat or you, Bobby, you go and you put your money down, you write a check for a car. Who owns
Hmm.
that car? You own that car, right?
And where
Who
it
is
is.
writing a check for a massive wing of our White House? They own that wing of our White House. Do you see what I'm saying here?
Yep.
It is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. But the even more disgusting thing, as you're saying, is, like Fox News did a segment the other day on how the shutdown is hurting the economy and all of this, but it's really a great chance to rediscover Hamburger Helper. And I loved Hamburger Helper when I was a kid, but it was the cheapest shit you could purchase.
Yes.
And like sometimes if you're so poor, you eat it without the hamburger. It's just
Yep. It's just
macaroni and
helper.
chicken. Yeah,
Yep.
it's just helper. And I've done that myself. But
Hmm.
the thing is,
Hmm.
this administration's let them eat cake moment, right? This is they're
That's
all
yes.
sitting in a gilded ballroom paid for by our corporate
Hmm. Hmm.
overlords,
Hmm.
telling us all to eat shit. That's
Yep.
it. That's what they're
I,
doing.
I I think that is the best way I've heard it described this week, Sam. So I mean, very verbose. Look, the 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 Oval Office, when you look at it, looks completely different than it has for 56 years. The inordinate amount of gold, gaudy gold in the Oval Office. And you're absolutely right. The White House is literally the people's house. And he just sold it out. He sold it out. And that's on top of the $150 million donation to the military, which now people are saying that they rolled into the White House because they believe maybe they're working on a bunker, the POC, the Presidential Emergency Operations Center, whatever. Civilians should not donate one thin dime to America's military. They've never done it. They didn't do it in the 1700s when we actually needed the money to fight the revolution. It just didn't happen. Congress's job is to raise funds for that because it keeps the military, it keeps the people's house, it keeps all of these things with the people. And now you have to question yourself, what do they get for that? What do they own? They just get to show up to the White House whenever? The list of people who have donated this and this, that, and the other. It's just everybody knows that he's the most transactional president we've ever had. So they're like, hey, if you got money, buy him off.
Yeah.
He has no principles. He has no morals. Just buy him off. Meanwhile, the Department of Education going away, loans for you to go to college going away. All of this stuff, the cost of living elevated while he is literally building a freaking ballroom where he can eat cake. If I was the Democratic nominee or Democratic candidate for president, my first thing would be, hey, the day I walk into the White House, the bulldozers will wipe that thing out. As a matter of fact, I want him, as he leaves the White House, to see the bulldozers pulling up to destroy that and put it back,
Yeah.
period. And because he's building it as a permanent reminder that he was president, I'm wiping it out. If
Yeah.
Lincoln doesn't have a freaking building named after him, he's got a room as he earned. But you get a whole no, absolutely not. That'd be and you know what? That first pledge of whoever runs against the GOP, that will get my vote because that means you're bold. I mean, I want to see Caterpillar trucks that day, January 20th, 1201, as you're giving your speech,
Yep.
tearing the hell out of that crap because it makes no sense.
Look,
Makes
I
no
mean,
sense.
that building has quartered soldiers
Yep.
who
Yep.
were injured in war.
Yep. Yep.
It's where it's our house, right? It's the
Hmm.
people's house. And now that I agree, I think not just because it says Trump on it, but because it's a symbol of the oligarchy. This is their room where they
Yep.
get to wear diamonds, while the
Yep.
rest of us,
Yep.
haggle over the price of spam, which they're doing in the chat right now. Which is, I love this chat.
Wow, really?
Yeah, somebody had to scrape together $3 to buy a can of spam.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And if you follow the social media and stuff, people who voted for Trump, this, that, and other, they are also complaining about the cost of living.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's getting really bad. And I think we are going to feel it during the holiday season. I think that's where we're going to feel it the most,
Yep.
where it's cold and now you got to make a decision on buying this or just having heat, things like that, real life decisions that you should not have had to make.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, the change that needs to happen is going to have to come from the people, and it starts with elections. People were not taking this serious in 2024, and now you're seeing the results of what happens when you make wrong choices. So I was able to interview retired Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath, who is running for U.S. Senate out of Kentucky. She has some very interesting observations, both as someone who has ran for office before, both as a veteran, but most importantly, as someone who went back home to Kentucky and sees a state that benefited from a lot of policies, specifically Obamacare and the ACA. What's happening now that it's going away? I cannot tell you how much of an honor it was to interview her. I just want you guys to take note on that. I will be on travel next week, so y'all will not see me next week. That may be good for a lot of you. But I will be back the
No,
following
Bobby,
week.
it's not good for
No, that's fine.
anybody. This is a highlight of the week, man.
No,
I love the show.
it,
The chat is letting you have it too. We're gonna miss you.
it's fine. But no, I'll be back the following week. And of course, if anything pops up, I'll go live if I can. But I want you guys to pay attention to the interview and just listen to what she's saying, because the observations, I think, are timely and poignant. And until then, until a couple of weeks from now, make sure you take care of yourselves, pay attention. And as I keep saying, get involved with your local government. That's where it starts.
Thank you, Bobby. Night, everyone. Watch this interview. It's great. It's a great interview. See you in a couple of weeks, Bobby.
And welcome back to this very special edition of Anchor Watch. I am your humble host, Bobby Jones, and I am honored and privileged to have a true American hero. She literally has been a trailblazer. She took an oath at 18, and she is continuing to follow up on that oath. I have Amy McGrath, retired Lieutenant Colonel of the United States Marine Corps, fighter pilot, one of the first female fighter pilots in Marine Corps history. And she is running for the United States Senate in the Commonwealth of Kentucky to replace someone who I think, and I'm being very nice, sorely lacked the character to do the job in Mitch McConnell. So first off, Amy, thank you for coming on our show. It's really an honor and privilege.
Well, it's great to be with you.
So let's talk a little bit about you and how you wound up doing this, why you feel compelled to put yourself out there in the public sphere after serving an entire career in the United States Marine Corps.
Well, what the Marine Corps taught me was you got to do hard things. That's what our country needs from you. That's what our country requires of you. That's what the Marine Corps taught me. Okay. And you put that to today in this race and all of the races that I've run here in Kentucky, they're hard. This stuff ain't easy here. But to stand up for the truth, to be a Democrat who is somebody that wants to protect rural health care, wants to protect Kentucky families who are struggling, wants to stand up for Kentucky against these tariffs. All of those things are motivations for me to jump into this race, to be the senator Kentucky deserves.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, specifically in the Commonwealth there. What are you seeing happening to the great people of Kentucky based on the policies of the Trump administration? I can imagine the fallout is significant there.
Yeah. So the first thing is the economy, right? These Republicans that a lot of my fellow Kentuckians voted for to get into office, including the president, they didn't just fail to make things better, because a lot of people voted for these Republicans and for Donald Trump to make things better for them. What do we see happening? They are intentionally making things worse with these tariffs. And so my message to my fellow Kentuckians is, this guy, Donald Trump, he's sold you out. These Republicans have sold you out. They are not making things better. This tariff is a double tax. It's a double tax on Kentuckians that none of us asked for, that nobody wants. Okay. And so that's what you've seen since Trump's been in office, since these Republicans have had all the power. The day-to-day costs for Kentucky families have gone up. Beef prices are up. Energy prices are up. Grocery prices are up. Pork, car prices, you name it. And meanwhile, the president is not only imposing these across-the-board tariffs, which, by the way, are dumb.
Right.
Okay. They're just flat out dumb. There's no economist in the world that says we should do this.
Right.
But also it hurts our industries in Kentucky. It hurts our bourbon industry. The production has plummeted since these tariffs have gone into effect. It hurts our farmers. Our soybean farmers are losing their crop. Meanwhile, the administration and these Republicans are bailing out Argentina, who's undercutting us, undercutting our farmers. And then they want to bail out Argentina again and give them more money and they want to, Trump wants to buy beef from them, undercutting our beef farmers.
Right.
I mean, this is like insane. It also hurts our automakers. And so all of this stuff is hurting Kentuckians. And I'm hearing this, enough is enough, and that's not even getting it into healthcare, which is the other big issue that really affects Kentucky, because Bobby, when the Republicans passed this bill this summer, okay, it is the worst bill for Kentucky in my lifetime. And again, it goes back to promises made, promises broken. Donald Trump and these Republicans said they would not go after Medicare. Guess what they did? They went after Medicare. He said he wouldn't go after Medicaid. Well, they're cutting Medicaid. They're cutting Connect. Connect is our equivalent of the Affordable Care Act. Okay. And so now we're looking at 200,000 Kentuckians at risk of losing their health insurance.
Wow.
And I bring it back to being on cancer treatments and losing your health insurance. I bring it back to the idea of closing 35 rural hospitals, which is what's going to happen now because of this bill.
Hold on, pause. Did you say 35?
35. We have more rural hospitals at risk than any other state because of this bill. And so now, if you're in a rural county and your dad has a heart attack and you have to drive him 10, 15 minutes to the hospital, those rural hospitals closed now. It's a 2-hour drive. I mean, come on. And to me, it comes back to, I don't know if you're a person of faith, as I am. I'm a Christian.
Same.
I went to Catholic schools. I think that this bill is just plain and simple taking from the poor, taking from the most vulnerable and giving to the rich, and giving more to Elon so he can buy another yacht. I mean, that's exactly, and that just isn't Kentucky values. It's not the values that I grew up with.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there.
Sorry.
No, that's great. So the economy, that's the thing that impacts people the fastest and is most put in front of people. When you go around the Commonwealth, have people voiced their displeasure, people who may have even voted for Trump, saying this is not what they voted for? Because I'm starting to get a lot of that feedback as we go into 2026.
You know what I hear from people? So a lot of people don't fully understand the tariffs.
Okay.
I still talk to a lot of people who say, well, I trust Donald Trump. I think he knows what he's doing, but it feels very chaotic. And then you talk to businesses who know, because they're taking it, the ones that have to do, the balance the books. They're like, yeah, we're really worried. And you talk to business owners who are very worried about the uncertainty of things right now. So I hear a lot of he's gone too far. It's too chaotic. We don't understand the plan here. So I do hear a lot of that. And my message to many of my fellow Kentuckians is, simply this: did you vote for rural hospitals to close? Because that's what they're giving you. These guys are responsible for making healthcare more expensive, or for cutting it completely, for shutting down your rural hospitals, for making prices go up on everyday items, all for these tax cuts for their billionaire friends.
I think you're hitting on something that I've complained about with the Democrats. You have got to break down these high-level, complex issues and put it where the goats can get it, right? You got to break it down and say, this is how this is going to affect you. And for the life of me, when I see the different leaders, and it's not just the ones in Congress, I mean, just, DNCC, all these people, they're not breaking it down like that. Yeah. Like how, hey, this time next year, you're going to be paying double in healthcare premiums.
Totally.
I mean, the fact that the rural hospital that you were born in is going to be shut down this time next year, the tangible effects of that. I think what you said about the business thing, that is what I've heard the most here in Georgia, where, hey, I cannot even plan 6 months, a quarter in advance because tariffs keep shifting this, that, and the other. And by the way, we're the ones paying for it.
Right. It makes no, it's the president said, oh, we're bringing back manufacturing. We've lost manufacturing jobs because of this.
Yes.
Because of the complexity of manufacturing in this country. And it's insane. And then the answer is, well, we're fixing the national debt. Really? Because the bill that you just passed this summer adds to our deficit and debt. You're going in the opposite direction.
Yep.
But the biggest thing, Bobby, is for people of Kentucky, it's to look at this seat and to look at these Republicans who are in power right now and look my fellow Kentuckians in the eye, and because they know the truth. And the truth is, these guys are cowards. These Republicans know that represent Kentucky right now. They know this stuff is bad for Kentucky, and they know it's bad for you, but they are afraid of Donald Trump.
Wow.
They are afraid to have their own opinions. They're afraid to have a sliver of independence from Trump. They're scared of him.
Wow.
I'm not.
Right. And
that's the difference.
And I'm glad you hit on that. I've been saying this on my show for a while. Congress has been absent in its responsibilities according to the United States Constitution. They're supposed to provide oversight to the chief executive, period. Just the fact that we've been talking about tariffs, last I checked, it's delineated in the Constitution that that's Congress's job.
Right.
Not the president's. And he's just like, this is what we're going to do. And you look at the majority, and this is the thing. When I say they, I mean the GOP have been very good at always being the rabble-rousers, but they're terrible at actual governing.
Yeah.
They own right now they have the White House, they have SCOTUS, they have Congress, and yet we have a government shutdown. Yeah. And I want to get your opinions on the shutdown. I know for a fact, people who are on SNAP, heck, they had to move money around to pay active duty military, right? You're looking at widespread financial chaos for government employees in those organizations that are off of that because we're shut down. Why? What do you think of that?
Well, it's terrible, first of all. Shutdowns should never happen. And here's the thing. Congress should not be paid. They're getting paid right now.
Bingo.
That's got to go away. I'd love to see a bill that pushes through in Congress that says, from here on out, if you're a member of Congress and we have a shutdown, you can't run for re-election. That'll stop the shutdowns pretty quick. It's stupid. It hurts people. It's inefficient. It's part of the chaos. And here's the thing about the current shutdown. You normally see shutdowns when you have a split in government. Right. Democrats control the House and Republicans control the Senate, or vice versa. Republicans control everything right now, and they can't get it done. And they're shutting down the government in order to take healthcare away from people. That's what's so insane about this.
Right.
And by the way, their singular legislative accomplishment in 9 months, where they've had all the power, right? They have the White House, they have the House, they have the Senate, they have all the power. Their only legislative accomplishment was a bill that cuts taxes for billionaires and cuts health care from Kentuckians and adds a staggering $3 trillion to our national debt. I mean, It's almost unbelievable how out of step they are with everyday Americans.
It's amazing because we went through this in Trump 1.0, where the only major legislative piece was the tax cuts for the rich. And the reason he wanted to run again, one of the primary reasons, was to maintain and expand on those cuts. We are watching the gutting of the administrative state in the federal government, right? But what I don't think people understand is how that federal funding directly impacts Kentuckians in everything that they do, right? So, for example, education, the Department of Education going away, kids that are on IEPs, that's funded by the federal government. Free reduced lunch programs, and most importantly here recently, SNAP, food stamps. I saw military families in food pantry lines.
Yeah.
I know that SNAP is supposed to not be a viable thing November 1st. Kentucky's going to be directly impacted more than a lot of states.
Yeah.
I guess the question I have for you is, what is the excuse that the local representatives in Kentucky, what are your opponents saying about this, if anything?
Well, of course they're calling it a democratic shutdown, which is insane because they have all the power, right? And they're still getting a paycheck. And by the way, this is why we need term limits too. I mean, give me a break. This is insane. But how does it affect Kentuckians? It absolutely affects us because you talked about SNAP, but we have a lot of federal workers here, and everything from air traffic control to Fort Campbell, Fort Knox. We have military members, but we have all of the the associated civilian support network around bases and around our DoD, or whatever it's called now.
No, it's still DoD. I refuse until it's legally changed by Congress. I refuse.
Good answer. But it affects a lot of people, and not everyone gets to be paid, and many people have to go to work and not be paid. It's just an absolute shame, and it's part of the total chaos that these guys are unleashing on us right now.
Final question and points that I want to ask. I get this all the time. Is America finished? Are we done? Is this experiment? Because we need to remember it's an experiment. Is it over? Why fight? Can we fix this? I mean, just despair. What message would you have for people who are basically saying there's no point even trying to fight this? Trump's going to win and it'll be someone to follow Trump and this is the new norm.
My answer to that is the greatest generation and generations before them in America fought some pretty hard battles for our country to give you, Bobby, as a black man, and me as a woman, and all Americans, no matter what race or gender, rights and freedoms. And it's not a choice. It's a duty to stand up right now. Okay? And I'm running in a tough spot in Kentucky. I get it. Right? But we all have a duty to stand up and do whatever we can. Some people can knock on doors. Some people can write letters. Some people can do shows like yours. Some people can write a check to a campaign. Some people can run for office. Everybody has to do their part. If they see the threat and love this country and call themselves patriots, you got to stand up right now. I'm doing my part. And I would ask everybody to do theirs.
Wow. It's the best I've heard it this election cycle, ladies and gentlemen. Amy, you've always been a fighter. You've always refused to just accept limitations. And if there was one thing I wish I could transfer to the American people, it's that quality. People are like, how does she do this? How does she do it? She refused to accept the limitations, which is, by the way, the most American thing ever when you really stop and think about it. I just want to thank you for coming on. I want to also just say, you are a great representation of our alma mater. command citizenship and government, leading that way. And if there's anything that we can do moving forward, I'm sure we'll talk to you some more here because you've got quite the marathon to run here. But understand, for as far as I am concerned, as far as Anchor Watch is concerned, and Veterans for Responsible Leadership, you have our full support. And we will be there to fight. If we got to go on the ground in Kentucky, heck, basketball season starting here in a little bit. I've always wanted to go to Rupp Arena. So, I mean, I got
Well,
nothing
you
better to
should.
do. So I can't thank you enough for what you've done both before getting into politics and now. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Bobby.
Mm-hmm.